Darren, oh, we're still on. Good morning or good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today for Thursdays with AARP Wisconsin. I am Amber Miller, not only your host, but also Associate State Director of Community Outreach with AARP Wisconsin. Today, before we get to our guest, just a friendly reminder, I'll be talking at the end of the show about upcoming events, but you can find them all and other information on aarp.org/Wisconsin. And then also please remember our friendly voice. So you can request or receive a call from one of our friendly voice volunteers. And as always, sometimes you just need to hear a friendly voice on the other end of the line to help you with the challenging times we're going through right now with the epidemic. So one of our trained AARP volunteers will be there to chat with you. It could be a daily phone call, could be a weekly or monthly, but please know that the service is free. You could be any age and you do not need to be an AARP member. So as you might know, November is National Veterans and Military Families Month. This month was established to recognize the daily sacrifices made by active duty, Guard, and Reserve military families. So today we're going to be talking to Steve Carter, who is our AARP Office of Community Engagement, and we're very excited to have you today, Steve.
Hello, Wisconsin. Good afternoon.
Steve, I'm not sure if you want to tell everybody where you're from, just so we can get it out in the open, what state you live in.
I am your neighbor to the south in the Chicago metro area. I work for AARP's national office, but I telework from Oak Park, Illinois.
And a Packers fan or a Bears fan?
I'm a Bears fan.
All right. So we're going to end the conversation now, Steve. It was so good. No,
it was great being with everybody. Yes, thanks.
Well, Steve, it doesn't matter what state you're from. I know we've had you on before and just very informative. So we're really excited to have you back again today. While we're interviewing Steve, if you have any questions or comments for Steve during the show, you can post them below if you're joining us on Facebook.com page or our YouTube page, and we will be taking them throughout the show. So Steve, currently there are 5.5 million military and veteran family caregivers in the U.S., and they're unpaid, and they provide about, which I was astonished, $14 billion in service to our wounded warriors each year. And unfortunately, the military and veteran caregiver consistently experience worse health outcomes. Can you tell us a little bit more about how AARP supports our veteran caregivers?
Sure. And as you know, Amber, and I'm sure as most of our members and followers know, that caregiving is a really fundamental issue for AARP. But we recognize in launching the Veterans and Military Families Initiative at AARP that the caregiving needs of military families, be it someone who served in World War II, in the Korean conflict, in Vietnam, or it could be somebody who's providing care for a child who served in the post 9/11 conflicts, have very unique and oftentimes very acute caregiving needs. So we really wanted to focus in on that aspect of the experience for caregivers in this country who are providing care for somebody who served in the military in the past, whether it's a condition that's caused by their active duty service or not. So one of the first things we did is we connected with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, which is an organization that advocates for military caregivers. And we created a 44-page military caregiving guide in conjunction with the Dole Foundation that has a pretty detailed map, if you will, for how to prepare and organize a caregiving journey for someone who served in the U.S. military. So it provides a checklist, it provides some potential organizations and places to look for additional resources. It helps you kind of lay out, the things that you need to have in order in terms of your own records, coming up with a plan, coming up with a support network, that type of thing. Because for many people, it's really just overcoming that initial, where do I start, if you will, to learn how to take care of somebody who's in need of care. And obviously, to know the places in your community to look to try and find supports that might exist as well. Mm-hmm. So we have that particular caregiving guide. We have a condensed version of that too. If you don't want the full 44 page caregiving guide. We have a condensed, smaller handbook version. We also put out a fact sheet in light of the pandemic last spring that just provide some information as well for people who are providing care for a veteran in the current situation with the pandemic, that's useful for that purpose as well. One thing I'll add too that we're now exploring with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation is encouraging municipalities or counties or localities, if you will, across the country to look at the caregiving supports and services that they have in their communities to try and make communities more veteran caregiver friendly, if you will. And that's something the Dole Foundation is very involved in, and we're looking to help support that and bring together stakeholders from different communities across the country to really look at what needs to be put in place in a community to be able to provide the types of supports and services that are necessary.
And Steve, before we came on the air, I was looking at the condensed version of the handbook, which you can find on the AARP Veterans website. And what I away from it, a lot of people don't even realize maybe they are a caregiver. They're so used to helping their loved one or helping their friend and, taking them to the doctors. And that's just kind of what they do. So I thought it was very, resourceful for somebody who maybe just kind of doesn't know where to start.
Absolutely. And part of it is helping people sort of realize that, yes, in fact, they are a caregiver. We sort of take the approach of you might be a caregiver if you do these 4 or 5 things, if you will, or any one of those 4 or 5 things. So yes, and again, it helps people recognize that they aren't alone in this. There are other people going through this, and we can learn from that shared experience, if you will, the best way to go about providing support for a friend or family member.
Absolutely. And if you're watching us today and you happen to go on the website and look at the caregiver, even if it's something maybe you can't use at this moment, I definitely encourage you to save it. It does come up as a PDF, or maybe even forwarding it to a loved one, just because it's a condensed version, but just really informative. And Steve, so can you share some ways that AARP helps veterans and their family with financial security, which I know is really important?
Sure. So one way is we focus a lot on employment and work and jobs, if you will, for a couple of reasons. Because again, fundamental to AARP is helping persons 50 and over stay in the workforce or re-enter the workforce or stay viable in their careers, if you will. And again, there's certain parallels there for people who've served in the military for several years who are transitioning out of military service and into the civilian workforce, or people who have served in Vietnam who are looking to stay in the workforce, or somebody who served in Desert Storm trying to stay in the workforce. So we provide tips and tools, if you will, to help people in their job search or to help people in their career journey, if you will. So among the things we do is AARP provides a job board. So employers who are looking to hire people who are 50 and over, are advertised on that job board, and we have a special filter on that job board for somebody who is a veteran who's looking for a job, and they can identify employers who are specifically prioritizing the hiring of people with military service. And that's really critical because for a lot of people coming out of the service, they're trying to understand how to make that transition to the civilian workforce, or people with past military service, if you served 1 to 5 years in the service, oftentimes are trying to figure out how they translate the skills and experience they have from their military service into a particular job sector or a particular job position in the private civilian workforce. So the job filter helps identify employers who are looking to hire veterans. And then we have a resume advisor for veterans. So somebody can actually look at your resume and say, you know what, you need to highlight this skill a little bit more, or take this experience you had in the military and translate it a little bit better, if you will, to help make your resume and your overall, potential employee profile look stronger.
Great. And I have a feeling a lot of people have not heard of these resources, and it just sounds like AARP is really trying to support our military and also the military families, and you can find that information below. And also to, speaking of protecting, the hard earned money and also savings, I also read that AARP found veterans and military families are twice as likely as civilian population to be targeted by con artists, which is such a shame. Can you talk a little bit about what we could do to protect ourselves from these con artists?
Sure. Well, a few things, and you're correct that we've done some market research where veterans indicate that they have been targeted by con artists at a rate that's twice as high as the general population. There's a few reasons for this. There's some very specific aspects of the veteran experience that attracts fraudsters. One is that they see the benefits that they receive, be it a pension benefit from the VA, for instance, as a very tempting target to try and steal from. So what they'll do is come forward and offer up a lump sum upfront buyout that normally doesn't work. It ends up not working out for the veteran. They end up getting less money if they get money at all, and oftentimes it's an outright scam where you make that payment up front and you never receive that lump sum back from the person who's supposedly buying out your pension, if you will. The other thing, and this is the one that I just frankly find this absolutely disgusting, but it's part of the culture, unfortunately, is that fraudsters try to take advantage at least of the sense of community and the sense of support that is, and that sense of kinship, if you will, that comes from veterans who have served together. And they come forward and offer themselves up, and we're helping this veteran, refurbish their home, or they pose as some type of a veterans charity, looking to take advantage of that, that strength of support that many veterans have for each other. So that's the other, the job schemes. There are job schemes as well where people come in and say, we're looking to hire veterans. If you give us your personal information, or if you pay this amount of money, we'll provide a service to you. And they, there's actually no service behind it. They end up just getting taken from that. By the way, and I will point out that all of the resources that AARP offers to veterans are in fact free, and that you don't need to be an AARP member. And you can find them on aarp.org/veterans, as you've had up several times. Also, on the screen now, if you do think you're being targeted for fraud or have been victimized, you can contact AARP's Fraud Watch Network toll-free hotline. The number is on the screen, 1-877-908-3360. The other thing to keep in mind too is if somebody's trying to offer you, again, access to VA benefits, and sometimes they will pose as a representative of the VA, you can call back to a VA number as well to find out if it's legit. Sometimes once you filed or applied for veterans benefits, VA might call you to just to verify some of the information you submitted, but they're not going to call you to solicit you to apply for veterans benefits. So you want to be careful of that type of a scam as well, where somebody reaches out to you and says they're from the VA, and if you give me, your bank account information number and your social security number, we'll process an application claim for you. It doesn't really work that way, and you really want to work with your county veteran service officer or a veteran service organization such as the VFW or American Legion if you're applying for benefits anyway.
Because the one thing we notice too, especially with fraud, is people are embarrassed. So once somebody might steal their information or take money out of their checking or savings account, whether it's, on a phone call or, they clicked on something in their email, is they're embarrassed, so they don't want to report it. And what advice then, Steve, would you give to somebody who maybe has dealt with this, or, some tips and tricks, especially in the email world, to ensure that they're not being scammed?
Yeah, so again, it's highly unlikely that a legitimate, VA organization, agency, or other state agency or county agency is going to reach out to you and solicit that type of information. Also, again, calling that Fraud Watch number, we have expert volunteers there who can help you, understand your recourse if somebody has done that, and kind of help you understand that it's really not, there's no shame in it, if you will. Again, particularly since in the case of veterans, they're really trying to take advantage of that generosity that many people, even those who haven't served in the military, feel for those who have served our country.
Absolutely. And I always say, if it's too good to be true, there's something off about it. But I do like, the tip of especially calling back, because I know right now scammers also can change their phone number. So it looks like a local phone number where you're like, oh, it's from my local city. So they're more apt to answer it, which I think is a huge issue.
Yeah, I think they're very good, because I get calls all the time from it won't say who's calling, but it has a number from a particular community, and it's oftentimes another community that I might know somebody who lives there or do business with somebody there. So the other thing too is you want to look at emails very carefully to make sure, because they'll make it look like it's coming from VA or a reputable veterans organization, but they'll change, a character, just one subtle change in the email address. So when in fact it's really not coming from a reputable organization or a reputable source. but people will click onto it, and then if they act on that email, oftentimes they've given away, if not money directly, then they've given away information that a fraudster could use to steal money from you.
And I also was reading, Steve, on our AARP Veterans website too, is a lot of scams are also being like fake charities or fake nonprofits that are calling veterans, asking them to donate money to an organization that doesn't even exist.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was referencing earlier about that trying to take advantage of that generosity that
Correct.
people feel toward military veterans.
Absolutely. Steve, any final words to our viewers today, either about, why this month is so important or any other resources that AARP can offer?
Sure. So November is a time every year where we really, take a step back and appreciate the service that people have provided to their country and those who are serving in active duty now as well. There'll be a lot of people who won't be able to see their families during the holidays, who are deployed overseas or on active duty here domestically. Unfortunately, a lot of us probably won't be seeing our families this holiday season as we have in the past due to the pandemic. But it's really important that we take this time to really think about and thank personally those people who we know who have served in the military. And for AARP, it's a time that we really, we dedicated a lot of effort during the month of November to providing free programming in each of the areas that we've covered, in the areas of fraud, in the areas of caregiving, in the areas of employment. So for instance, just Tuesday night, we did a program, a webcast program, talking about employment for veterans, and we had a representative from Amazon who's doing a lot of hiring right now and hiring veterans, and a defense contractor called Mantech, and someone from the Small Business Administration to again talk about how you can organize your job search and use your military experience and skills in the private civilian workforce in the best way possible. So we've devoted a lot of time throughout the month of November to doing that. We also premiered a documentary film about featuring families who are providing care, where you have younger millennial and Generation Z age kids who are providing caregiving for their parents or grandparents who have served in the military. And it's a really powerful and touching tribute, and it really helps tell the story of what many families are experiencing as well. So we really do dedicate a lot of effort during the month of November to raising awareness and putting our resources and information out there for veterans to utilize.
Great. And Steve, even though November, of course, we overly highlight all the goodness, the AARP Veterans page, of course, is 365 days a year when it comes to resources.
Correct. They're available all year, and they are all free. And we'll be doing more of the type of programming that I talked about even going into 2021. We'll do those, both our state offices and our national office will conduct those type of free programming throughout the year going forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. As always, I know we've had you on the show before, but appreciate all the support and guidance that you give to our viewers, especially related to veterans resources and support. So thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I will be back with Wisconsin anytime you want.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Amber.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Also, we have some upcoming events coming up that might be of interest to you, which we'll bring up shortly. So December 1st, Caregiving During Uncertain Times, Finding Support and Connection. So this really kind of goes hand in hand with what Steve was just talking about. So if you're a new caregiver, if you're a caregiver that is feeling, a little lost during these times during the epidemic, we encourage you to come then on December 1st. December 2nd, one-day university lecture presented by AARP, The Modern Whiskey Boom, which sounds very interesting. So if you're interested, you could register for that. And then lastly, December 3rd, the Girlfriend Talk with Nancy O'Dell, who you might know from Entertainment Tonight. So these are all of our 3 upcoming events, which you can either register by the 877 number or visit the aarp.org/Wisconsin page. For next Thursday, of course, we know it is Thanksgiving. So, of course, we want you to have a happy and safe holiday. So we will actually be doing a pre-recorded show, and our guest will be Neil McCollum, who is the Safety Volunteer State Director related to the AARP Driver Safety, and he is going to be talking about winter driving safety tips. So in Wisconsin, we have been very lucky. We have not received really any snow, or not much snow, but we need to start about how we can ensure that we're safe on the road. So we hope you come back, and it's Thanksgiving, you can watch it at your leisure, but we do appreciate you joining us today. Feel free to share this video on your Facebook page or YouTube. You could share the link with your friends and family, and always feel free to check out AARP's website for additional resources and information. We want to thank you so much for joining us today, and be safe and have a happy holiday.